I use the restroom real quick before we start? No.
Yes.
Okay. Now we all have to do this or not? I'm like purposely sitting there.
All right, let me make sure this sound is off. Wonderful. Okay. All right, guys, we stopped here at yesterday's notes. We stopped at number 4, where we had reviewed the difference or sum of cubes. Let's start this together and see if you can finish it with your partner. So the first thing that we see is this is the result of something cubed, and this is the result of something cubed to the 6th power. So we don't know any factoring rules yet for the 6th power. So we want to try to look for, is this something that we've learned? 64, what number times itself would give you 64? 4, good. What variable times itself would give you x to the 6th? Yes, x squared. The other way you could look at it is when you raise an exponent to an exponent, you multiply. So awesome. And then in the same way, as we look at y to the 6th, what variable cubed gives you y to the 6th? Y squared. Awesome. Okay, so now that we know a and we know b, quick reminder, a cubed minus b cubed factors down into a minus b times quantity a squared plus ab plus b squared. All right, with that in mind, turn to your partner and let's see, the tallest person in the group, if you could share what this would be. Olivia, I think you were taller than me, right? I think you're 5.
I'm 5'4". Yeah.
Yeah, you beat me. I'm 5'3". Lucky you. All right, so what would you put in for the first parentheses?
Would it be 4x squared minus y squared?
Minus y squared, awesome. And then this one's tricky. What is 4x squared squared?
16x to the 4th power.
Nice. Plus, what would be the middle?
4x squared and y squared.
Awesome. And then what would that last
Plus y squared.
y squared squared, right?
Oh, so y to the 4th. Yeah.
Well done. Don't box it yet, but that's awesome. All right, guys. Are you guys still deciding who's taller? No, we're okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you should start here. 4x squared minus y squared times quantity 16x to the 4th plus 4x squared y squared plus y to the 4th. Now, I said start here. We actually can finish a little further. As I'm looking at this, I see one term squared minus another term squared. Do we remember the other rule that we learned kind of yesterday? A squared minus b squared equals a minus b times a plus b.
That's for difference.
That's the difference of two squares. So is this the difference of two squares? What squared would give me 4x squared? 2x. And what squared would give me y squared? Y. So 2x is representative of a and y is representative of b. So I can factor this even further to 2x minus y, 2x plus y, and then I have this guy that I got to carry down as well, 16x to the 4th plus 4x squared y squared plus y to the 4th. All right, that is going to be one of the more advanced factoring that we do with the difference of cubes. But you guys all started in a great spot, and we're going to continue with factoring over today and Friday off campus learning day and Monday, where ultimately, hopefully, this will become more instinctive to you of, oh, keep looking, keep looking. Today's focus, however, is actually going to be on a different type of factoring. Today, we're going to see how do you factor 3 terms. And in order to really factor three terms in the way that Wheaton Academy teaches, so this is the way that you'll see it in pre-calculus, in calculus, if you go on that way, we teach factoring in one particular way. factoring will show up for the rest of Algebra 2. Now, even though we only show this one way when we're presenting it in class, there are other ways to factor. I know other ways to factor. So if you try this and practice and you're just not getting this way, I would say talk to me and I can show you a different method as well. But this is a skill that I really need you guys to focus on. I know we're here at the end of the day. So if you have any distractions, if you could put those away, really tune in to this section here because we're going to use it quite a bit. How do you factor 3 terms here at Wheaton Academy? Here, we use a strategy that it's kind of silly. It's called trial and error or guess and check. But we give you a bunch of tips along the way. So I like to call it strategic trial and error. So if you have 3 terms, go ahead and write down you're going to factor using strategic. There is a lot of strategy involved, but you will sometimes have some error, and we'll see what that will look like. Mario.
Why are you saying specifically in the academy?
Because there's other schools that teach it in different ways. So this method we use here at Wheaton Academy, in my opinion, I've learned how to factor multiple ways. This is the fastest, but it also takes a lot of intuition. Like you need to really use these tips to be able to factor well. To understand this strategy well, you do need to remember how to FOIL. So let's go back to how to FOIL. You guys did this on the quiz. So here's a review question. If you are asked to multiply this binomial x plus 2 times this binomial x minus 3. Go ahead and multiply that out. I'm going to do a quick walk around because we do have to have this skill before we can go backwards and factor.
Oh my gosh. It choked on a bubble.
All right, guys. Let me get some more road excellence out because I'm going to be picking at the end of the notes. So raise your hand if you can tell me what's the answer to this for a road to excellence.
I'll say in Russian.
Oh, no. I don't know what to do with that. Let's see, Zinnia.
Squared minus x.
Nice.
She didn't say.
X squared minus x minus 6 is the correct answer. Now, here's what I need you to recall from what you've done. This is what I need you to recall. This first term is the result of multiplying the first term in one parentheses by the first term in the second parentheses. This is where the f came from, or it's the result of the f in FOIL. This last term, -6, came from multiplying the last times the last. So this is where the L came from in FOIL. What did the middle number come from? Oi, exactly right. The outside and the inside. That's exactly right. So your work should have looked like x squared, and then you had your outside -3x and your inside 2x, and then your last term. So these two pieces are what compose up the middle term. Now, what we're going to be doing when we factor is we're going to take something that has been FOILed and we're going to go backwards and we're going to factor it back down to where it began. So what we are going to focus on is unfoiling any trinomial that's given to you. We're going to follow these 4 steps. And really the goal, especially after this weekend, would be after you've done so many questions, you know the 4 steps, you don't have to keep revisiting them. But for right now, let's go ahead and let's walk through them. First step, well, actually, we have to remind ourselves every single form of factoring requires a preliminary step And that is to always look for a what? GCF. So that's a preliminary step. Always look for GCF. Always. Okay, after you've looked for a GCF, so let's go ahead and look at example 1. Example 1, is there a GCF?
No.
No. So then I'm going to go to step 1 since I have 3 terms. Write your 2 parentheses and determine the signs. So if I have a trinomial like this one, I know it came from 2 parentheses multiplied out, just like you guys just did. Now, inside the parentheses, it will either be plus and minus, or plus and plus. Here's how we know. We're still on step 1. You're going to have the same 2 signs if the last term is positive. You're going to have different signs if the last term is negative. So let's look at the last sign. This is the last term. Is that a negative or is that a positive? Negative. Therefore, I'm going to go back up because these steps are new to me. It's negative, therefore I'm going to have different signs. So negative, therefore we know that we're going to have different signs, meaning one's going to be plus, one's going to be minus. There's some error to this process. So put plus and minus anywhere right now. If you're using paper, I would suggest a pencil just because we might have to erase, but we know that we're going to have plus and minus. If not, you can cross it off. It's okay. The next step, step 2. Now that we have our signs, we go on to step 2. Step 2 says, I don't know, my thing just kind of bounced off on me. Yep. Step 2 is to undo the first term in the process of FOIL. So undo the F in FOIL. So if I look back at example I, the F came from this guy, x squared. So I want to undo that, unmultiply it. What times what would give me x squared? X times, right. So we're going to put an x here. We're going to put an x here. Then we're going to undo the L in FOIL. So, and I don't have to worry about the negative because I've already taken care of that with the plus and minus. So I'm just going to undo the L, which in this case is undo the 6. What times what would give me 6? 2 and 3. What if that doesn't work? What else is there? 6 and 1. Okay, here's my first tip to you. I'm going to be giving you 3 tips. These are extremely helpful. Tip number 1, the factors that tend to work the most often are the ones that are closest together. So 2 and 3 are closer together than 6 and 1. 6 and 1 are 5 units apart. 2 and 3 are only 1 unit apart. Write down that tip, maybe highlight it, come back to it. So here's tip number 1. Try the factors, that's 2 and 3 in this case, that are closer together first. In all the problems that I've factored, the ones that are closer together work like 8 out of 10 times. So I'm going to try 2 and 3, but for right now, this is tip number 1. Try putting the 3 here and the 2 here. Mario.
Doesn't matter how big or small the number is, right? It just matters.
Right. So I'm going to try 2 and 3 first. Now, what's the only way that we know if we've gotten it correct? We got to check just the O and the I. We've already undone the F. We've already undone the L. So we only have to check the O and the I. So I'm going to check the outside and inside. And I have a negative 2x is the outside. A positive 3x is the inside. That's going to add up to what? Negative x. So now I need to look at the middle term. Oh, that's not a negative x. That's a, thank you. That's a, I was like, I tried to make it work out wrong. It's a positive x. And the negative x is what I want. Here's tip number 2. If it's just the opposite of what you want, switch your plus and minus sign. So go ahead and write that as tip number 2. Tip number 2. If the outside and inside, the OI, add to the opposite of middle term, change the plus and minus. So in this case, I'm going to make this plus sign into a minus, and I'm going to make this minus sign into a plus. Now I check, does it work? So when I check it, I'll have a x times 2 is a positive 2x, negative 3 times x is a negative 3x. 2x plus negative 3x is negative x, which is what I want. And so once it works, once the OI step works, you box it because you know that that's the factored form. All right, I'm going to give you only 3 tips. These 3 tips have made factoring life much easier for me. I'm hoping they'll do the same for you. It's coming. It's coming in example 3. All right, number 2. Number 2, what's the first step always? GCF. So what is the GCF of 2x squared, 18x, and 40? 2. So let's take that out. You bring it out to the front, just like you guys did in last night's homework. And you'd have x squared plus, what's 18x divided by 2? 9x, good, plus what's 40 divided by 2? 20. Okay, now this is a trinomial. So I go back to those steps. Step 1, write down your parentheses because we know this came from something FOILed. If there's a GCF, keep it on the outside. And in step 1, you determine the signs. So if I look at the signs come from the last term. Is the last term positive or negative? Positive. Okay, we haven't had this happen yet. So I'm going to go back up to step 1 and say, well, what do you do if it's positive? Let's take a look. If the last term is positive, that means you're going to have the same signs. Now, wait a minute. I can either have plus and plus or minus and minus. Here's how you know. If the middle term is negative, they're both going to be negative. If the middle term is positive, then both are going to be positive. So since it's positive, therefore I know I'm going to have the same signs as the middle term. So is the middle term positive or negative here? Positive. It's a positive 9x. So I'm going to have the same signs as, in this case, plus 9x. So I will have a plus and a plus. Step number 2, undo the F in FOIL. So if I look at where the F came from, that was the result of x squared. So I'm going to go here and say, how do I undo the F? What times what gave me x squared? Good, x times x. So we'll put that here in the first position and here in the first position. Now I have to undo the L. What times what would give me 20? 10 and 2, 4 and 5. What if those don't work? 20 and 1. Okay. 4 and 5 are closer together. So let's try those first. Well, in this case, it doesn't matter. Right. Exactly right. Now, how do we know if 4 and 5 worked? Yep, you check the OI. You do the outside and the inside. So outside is 5x, inside is 4x. What's 5x plus 4x? 9x. Is that what I want? Yep, that's the OI. You check the outside and the inside to see, does it add up to the middle term? So I need it to add up to 9x. And since 5x and 4x add up to be 9x, I know that it worked. Zinnia. Yes. Tip number 1 is try the factors that are closer together first. I have not. I'm about to give you the third one. It's tip number 2, if outside and inside, oh, we got tip number 2, right? We got tip 1. Did you get it, Zinnia? All right, here is time for tip number 3. Tip number 3, this, when a math teacher told me this a couple years ago, it changed when I had to factor things, which is all the time as a math teacher. It made me factor like 10 times faster. It made my life so much easier. So I'm hoping it will make your life easier. Here is tip number 3, life-changing moment. I'm not kidding. I was like, holy cow, this has changed everything. Okay, tip number 3, if there is no GCF to start, there will be no GCF to end. And I'll even give you an example of what I mean. So right now, write that. If there is no GCF to start with, then there will be no GCF to end, just means in your answer. There will be no GCF in, I'll say the answer. At the end is fine. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. If you have something like 6x plus 3, that can't happen. So this is an example where there's a GCF in the end. So we would say example cannot be. Cannot be 6x plus 3. If you're like, well, why not? Think about how you could take out, what could you take out of there? 3. And then you'd have a 3 on the outside. And if it was on the outside, that means you could take it out to begin with. All right, that is a huge helpful tip. You'll see how it works here. Looking at example 3, is there any GCF in these 3 terms? No, so let's go to step 1. Step 1 is write your parentheses and determine the signs. So we know to determine the signs using the last term. The last term is negative. Maybe you guys already know. Does that mean we're going to have different signs or the same signs? Different. Good. If you didn't know that, you could just go back to step 1 and read that you have different signs if it's negative. So different. One's going to be plus, one's going to be minus. Doesn't matter where I put it to start with. Now we undo the F in FOIL. What times what would give me 6x squared? 2x and 3x, or what if that doesn't work? 6x and 1x. What should we try first? Yep, try 3x and 2x. Then we undo the L. What times what could give me 18? I heard 3 and 6, I heard 9 and 2, or 18 and 1. Yep, those are the only options. Which should I try first? 3 and 6. Now here's where that helpful hint comes into play. If I look at 3x, can I put a 6 or a 3 in with 3x? Can I put a 6? No, because that would create a GCF. Can I put a 3? No, because that would create a GCF.
Come on, you guys are not listening.
It's all good. It's the end of the day, so let's just write it so you can come back to it. You cannot put 6 or 3 in with 3x.
So it has to be 2, and then you have 9.
Okay, so right now, I know that 6 and 3 don't work with 3x and 2x. Let's move on to 9 and 2.
But if you put 9, so you have to put it.
I can't put 9 here either, so I can add that in. Cannot put 9, 6, 3. I couldn't put 18 in either with 3x. So let's stick with 9 and 2, but use what Caroline said. What would I have to put in with the 3x, Caroline? 2, which means I have to put the 9 here. Now, how do I know if it works?
Yeah.
Yep, check the OI. Check the OI. So if I do the outside, that's negative 27x. If I do the inside, that's 4x. That comes out to be negative 23x. Is that what I want? Yep. So I know I have the answer. So the answer is 3x plus 2 times quantity 2x minus 9, and I box it.
So if you're trying to factor, you just can't have like a similar number to it.
You can't have a number that it shares a factor. So yeah, if it shares any multiples.
6 and you can't just have 6 and 3.
Right. Because I know I checked for GCF and there wasn't any. Michaela, can you try this one on your own real quick? And then if it's good, I'll say yes, go ahead. Because this is where we kind of stop and practice on our own. Okay, so number 4, try this one on your own. If you're like a little bit lost, follow the steps. And then I'll be walking around to see if you guys need help.
Should be 2 and. Yeah, that's right. Okay, it's 2 and 4. Doesn't matter what school comes in. Okay, but still, if you still try to do the whole, you don't get someone walks by.
All right, guys. Raise your hand if you have the answer. For road to excellence, we're gonna be picking some soon. Let's see, Allison.
3x minus 10x plus 4.
Nice. Now, the only other correct answer you could have had is you could have said x plus 4 times 3x minus 2.
Wait, how do you get the point?
So let me write this on, Allison. So if you check the outside and the inside, if I check outside, that's 12x. Inside is negative 2x, which then gives you that 10x.
Okay.
All right, let's try another one. Number 5. Is there a GCF? No. So the next thing we do is we start with the L and see what would be our signs. The last term is negative. Therefore, are we going to have the same or different signs? Different. Good. So I'm going to put in a plus and a minus. Then I have to undo the F. What times what gives me 20x squared? Yep, or 20x and 1x, right? Which one should we try first? Good, so let's put those guys in.
Doesn't matter where.
Doesn't matter where. We might have to switch them, but right now we're just kind of, that's why it's trial and error. Number six, what factors make up 6? Yep, 2 or 3 or 6 and 1. Which one should I try first? 2 and 3. Which one should I not put in with the 4? Don't put 2. So let's try 3 here and let's try 2 here. Okay, the only way I know if I've done it right is by oing it. If I do the outside, that's negative 8x. The inside is 15x. That gives me a positive 7x. Tip number 1, if it's just the opposite of what you wanted, what do? Switch the signs. Good. So this is going to be a minus. That's going to be a positive. And that's positive 8x minus 15x now, which creates the negative 7x. Check. And I box it. All right. Number 6. Number 6, turn to your partner, this time the shortest person in the group. You share what you would do first. What you would do first. All right. Olivia, that's me by an inch. Okay. Haley, you're like a fraction. Fraction. It's a fraction. Okay. Haley, or not Haley, Olivia, I'm going to take out a 2 because I see the GCF. And then I would have 5x squared plus 7x plus 2. And then I break it down. The last term is positive. Olivia, do you remember if that means we're going to have the same signs or different signs? Oh, you're on mute. You might be talking.
No, I think I was glitching there. Sorry.
Oh, gotcha. No problem.
Yeah, my internet's.
Okay. Are you here now?
Yeah, I hear. Sorry. What did you say?
So sorry. So since the last term's positive, therefore we're going to have the same signs. Remember what they're the same of?
Plus signs?
Yeah, because the middle time is this middle one is plus. So I'm going to have a plus and a plus. And then I undo the F. So I ask what times what gives me 5x squared. It has to be only 5x and x. I'm going to put those in. And then I ask what times what gives me 2. So that's 2 and 1. And I just need to guess where to put them. So if I put like a 2 here and a 1 here, then that would give me 10x plus 1x. That's 11x. That's not even close. So if it's not even close, try switching your numbers.
Oh, okay.
2 here and a 1 here. Now let's try it. So if I do outside, that's 5x. Inside is 2x, which is what I want.
Okay.
So now I know I have it right and I can box that.
So at first you don't know the order, so it will take trial and error.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
I had to know the right answer.
All right, guys, let's bring it back up to the front. You should have 2 times quantity 5x plus 2 times x plus 1. Here's the thing. There is a lot of trial and error to this. So with my partner, we originally put a 1 here and a 2 here. And then I tried to add it and I got 10x plus 1x, which is 11x. And we said that's not even close to 7x. If it's not close, try rearranging the last 2 values. So then I put a 2 here and a 1 here and said, now let's try it. And it came out to be 5x plus 2x. All right, there's one last thing I want to show you before we talk about the weekend. Zinnia. Because I looked at the beginning and noticed that there was a 2 that went into everything. Yeah, GCF. All right, guys, can I have your attention for one more minute? What? In my earlier class, I had a student that ended with this. And I said, what? Yes, if you forgot to take the GCF out at the beginning. If I forgot, this might be what I end up with. And tip number 3 will not work because that's only contingent on you taking out the GCF at the beginning. So if you ended with this, you would just have to go further. And I would divide out this 2 that I see. And I would be left with x plus 1. And I would have 5x plus 2. It's a different order, but multiplication's commutative. You can change the order when you multiply. So it is equivalent. The answer is this or this. 2 times quantity 5x plus 1 times, or 5x plus 2 times quantity x plus 1. I just want to show if you forgot to take out the GCF at the end, you could, or at the beginning, you could still do it at the end. Okay, here's the thing. 2 homeworks. You have a bookwork, which practices using this skill. You have a worksheet, which practices using this skill. You can decide which one to do first. It's the exact same thing. The worksheet looks like, where is it? Homework. The worksheet, where are you? Looks, nope, that's not that one. It looks like, that's the answers. There it is. It looks like this.
Those the answers?
You are given half the answers.
Where's my phone?
These are not the answers. These are the practice problems. So I would say if you want to, if you don't have your book here, start the worksheet because that's for the off-campus learning day anyway. They gave you the first one, 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. They just showed you how you are factoring. It does say write prime if prime. There is only one of these which are prime. So there is a possibility that it won't work. I'll tell you right now because it's already given to you as well. Number 12 is prime. That's the one that doesn't work. So you could try to factor it, but you're going to find nothing works because it's prime. It's just not factorable. Okay, you guys have 12 minutes to get started. I would